Did you know that Nova Scotia is in a food security crisis? Nearly 1 in 3 households in Nova Scotia is food insecure. There are many people and families that need help, not only during the holidays, but throughout the year. On this episode, we welcome Ash Avery, Executive Director with Feed Nova Scotia, to share important information with us on their program and events. You will find lots of helpful information about food insecurity, whether it's a concern for your family or you just want to help. Hi, everyone. As everyone starts to get ready for another holiday season, we have an important show to bring you. I'm pleased to have Ash Avery with us today. She will share with us the current situation that many Nova Scotians are facing. Feed Nova Scotia addresses hunger and finds solution for food insecurity. Welcome, Ash, and thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here. And thank you for everyone who is watching, for tuning in. You know, the holidays often bring a lot of attention to food insecurity and, generosity and giving to those in need. But the truth is, hunger and food insecurity is not seasonal. It is something that people struggle with 365 days in the year. So it's really my pleasure to be able to speak about this issue and share more about the work that we're doing at Feed Nova Scotia. So yeah, I really just thank you for having me and for helping to shine a light on the crisis that we're in. And again, thank you to the audience for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you, as I said. Audience, thank you for joining us, and please press like and share a comment to express appreciation for the work that Ash and her team is doing. Ash, please tell us about Feed Nova Scotia and tell us more about the food insecurity crisis in Nova Scotia.
Feed Nova Scotia is a nonprofit located here in Halifax. And the organization has been around since the early 80s when food insecurity really started to become a well-known crisis. And, community organizations and concerned citizens were coming together to start responding to the issue by opening food banks. So Feed Nova Scotia today is really about responding to the immediate needs, so ensuring that food is getting out to the communities that need it, while also recognizing that food is not going to solve food insecurity. And so we really focus a lot of our effort as well on working towards systemic change so that people don't have to rely on food banks and community services to be able to meet their fundamental needs. So all of that said, we know that here in Nova Scotia, 1 in 3 households are food insecure, as you said. This is one of the highest rates of food insecurity out of all of the provinces in Canada. And in particular in Nova Scotia, we are seeing the rates of food insecurity continue to increase disproportionately. So I want to be clear that it's not because people are not working hard enough or they don't know how to budget. It's really about the cost of living, and wages just are not keeping up with expenses. So rent is increasing, mortgages are increasing. People who are on fixed incomes are being left behind, especially those who turn to the social safety nets that our society offers when they need it. They just are not getting an adequate income to be able to meet their basic needs. And anybody who is going to a grocery store can attest to the cost of food and how it is continuing to increase. So at Feed Nova Scotia, we're really seeing all of this in real time. And so last year, we distributed more than 6 million pounds of food across the province. So we have trucks that are out on the road 5 days a week, delivering food to over 140 community partners all across the province from coast to coast. So the agencies and the community organizations and programs that we partner with are really able to reach tens of thousands of Nova Scotians every single month who are turning to them for support. So this includes children, parents, seniors, students, people who are working, people who are not working, newcomers. It doesn't look one way. Hunger impacts all kinds of people in Nova Scotia. And, as I said before, we know that while people need food today and we need to ensure that people are not going hungry, we cannot feed our way out of this crisis. We really need systemic change. We need provincial-wide and federal-wide change to be able to address this issue, which really stems from poverty. So, at Feed Nova Scotia, we're really, as I said, we're meeting the need today. We're really focused on the bigger picture. We don't want this crisis to continue. And if we keep going on the same track that we have been going on, we know it's going to continue to get worse. It has increased 69% since 2019 here in Nova Scotia. And those rates are also reflected across the country as well. So we're just seeing, a disproportionate number of community members here in Nova Scotia who are facing this issue, and something needs to be done about it.
Wow, that saddens me when I hear how deep the problem is. I'm thankful that you organizations like yourself and so many wonderful volunteers are there to help out. But it is sad. You mentioned about change. Do you mind a brief explanation of some of the changes that you would hope to see?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, the main contributor to food insecurity is the cost of living. So, what we would want to see are bold government policies that are impacting, people's ability to meet their basic needs, to have housing, to have adequate income, to have access to employment, to have access to affordable food. And, something that really has struck us this year, an emerging trend that we're seeing, is that there is a large percentage now of folks who are accessing food banks or meal programs that are working. And so, we have this understanding in society that if you get a job and you work, that, you're going to be okay, and that's how you're going to be able to meet your needs. And that just is not the case anymore. We're seeing more and more people fall below the poverty line, and frankly, folks are just having to make really difficult choices between paying their bills or feeding their family. So we would like to see a strengthened social safety net, which is supposed to catch people when they fall, and is just not adequate. It is not keeping up with the cost of living, with inflation. So we would really like to see, like I said, the social safety net strengthened. There's a lot of pieces that, government could be looking at. Adequate housing is certainly an issue that many people are familiar with here in Nova Scotia, across Canada, and that is an area that we really need to strengthen. People need access to safe, secure, affordable housing in the province. So those are just some of the things that we are advocating for, and really trying to educate the public on, and and advocate with government to be able to make these changes.
Excellent, thank you. What advice do you have for anyone watching today that may be struggling with food insecurity?
Thank you. I really appreciate this question. And I think, where I would want to start would be by saying that children are one of the most disproportionately affected groups in Nova Scotia's food insecurity crisis. And children in Nova Scotia experience poverty disproportionately in relation to the rest of the provinces in Canada. So this is a particular issue that is impacting Nova Scotia more so than other provinces, and that's just something we all need to be really alarmed by and concerned with. So children are making up 1/3 of those who are relying on food banks, and that is far more than their share of the population. We know that the impacts of food insecurity are profound. It impacts health, it impacts well-being, it impacts their future. Their ability to just be a kid and to learn and to grow. So we can sometimes talk about hunger like it's happening somewhere else in another neighborhood, in another town, to people that we don't know. But the data is just so clear that 1/3 of people using food banks are children. Families are struggling, and parents are doing everything that they can, but still falling short. And this is through absolutely no fault of their own. So we know through our data, between July and September alone, there were 100,000 visits to a food bank in Nova Scotia. That's just over 3 months.
That
So
sounds like a lot.
it is a lot, and 22% of food bank users in Nova Scotia are under the age of 12. We know that many children are in single parent households, so the data does reflect that many parents who are turning to food banks for support are living in a single household, supporting their families, supporting their kids. And as I said before, more and more families are using food banks and also working full-time, multiple jobs. It's 24% actually of Nova Scotians that are employed and relying on a food bank, which again, it's just something we've never seen before in this province to this degree. It used to be, if we look at 2019, it was 14%, so it's increased quite a bit. So yeah, it's just telling us something very clearly, which is that we are in a crisis, and everybody should be acquainted with this issue in Nova Scotia, whether you are somebody who is experiencing food insecurity or you are someone who is privileged to not have to be experiencing food insecurity. It's touching everyone's lives in some way or another. We know that there will be parents maybe watching today that have run out of groceries before their next pay, have had to do things like water down milk, or, have provided food for their kids while going hungry themselves, or have waited, to go to the food bank till it's absolutely necessary, or maybe didn't access a food bank because, either they didn't feel like it was their need was as worse as maybe some others, or there's a number of reasons why folks don't access help. So I guess all to say, the important message here is just like, if you're struggling, you're not alone, and it is not a failure of you or your family. It is a failure of our systems in our society that are just not adequate. So it's a systemic issue. It's about income, affordability, and policy. It's not about whether you budget well or you work hard enough. None of that. So my advice from a practical and an emotional standpoint for folks is just, there are supports all across the province, and you deserve those supports. They are here to help you, and there is absolutely no shame in accessing supports. It's really important, that you understand that there's folks in your community who you can turn to, who are there to try and provide services for you that can address food insecurity. So, as I said, just in our network with Feed Nova Scotia, there's over 140 places across the province that can help, whether it's a food bank or a meal program, family resource centers, and Feed Nova Scotia can certainly, connect folks based on where they live. We have a map on our website where you can put in your address and it will sort of populate the services that are around you in your community. And then we also always encourage folks to call 211. We have a great partnership with 211, and the folks there are able to, they have a directory of all of the services in Nova Scotia. So you just call them and share a little bit about what you're looking for, what you're experiencing, and, they can look in their database and help to connect you to local services. In addition to food banks, there's also a number of other services, and some services that aren't just responding to food insecurity or providing food, but are offering other services. We have the school lunch program now in Nova Scotia that is still in its infancy, and it's trying to get its legs, but it's there and it's starting to offer choices for kids in school. And there are community meals where you can, access food, but also just connect with your community, meet your neighbors, talk to folks. There's community fridges and pantries, which usually are, located near or around another service where, you can just access without questions whatever is available in the fridges and the pantries. And then there's all kinds of really interesting, grassroots food projects that community members are creating across the province, and we're always trying to connect with those and to support them wherever we can. Those types of services are really looking at how to sustain resources in community to be able to meet people's needs in, dignified, just, and secure ways. We know that food insecurity is traumatic. It can come with a lot of stress, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear. It can really weigh folks down, and it's one of those things that is always interconnected with other issues that come from experiencing poverty. So again, I would just always reiterate, we know that parents are out there doing their absolute best in a system that is just failing to meet people's basic needs. So whether you're a parent who needs support or a parent who wants to understand and help, just know that, this does affect all of us. When children are hungry, that is a community problem, not a personal one. This is something that we all have a role to play in to make sure that every single child in this province can grow up nourished, healthy, hopeful, having their needs met and being able to thrive as opposed to, surviving.
Thank you. There's a couple really important points I want to repeat and just highlight because I think it's so important. Number one, this is a community problem. It's not your failure. If you're dealing with food insecurity, please reach out. Please reach out for help, whether it be one of the food banks, one of the resources that Ash has shared, or 211, as she said, which is an excellent service. We've talked about it before on this show. And please get the help. If you need assistance, get the help. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's really important. Moving on to the next, in parent chats, we go with, we try to help parents and have conversations with their children about very difficult topics. And food insecurity is one of those topics. What advice do you have for parents who wants to sit down and talk to their child? They could be at various ages, elementary school, junior high, or high school, and how to recognize it, be able to show empathy, and help others when they're talking to their kids?
It's such a good question, and I know it's something that a lot of parents worry about. I would say, kids are aware. Even if we think we're protecting them, kids understand when something is hard and they deserve honesty. And frankly, they should understand what's happening, whether it's something that is happening to them or something that is happening to someone that they are interacting with, which, like I said, is it's very likely given the crisis that we're in. So it is just really important to, educate our kids on this issue so that they understand, what is happening. So sharing just simple truths like, right now food is more expensive. A lot of families, maybe including ours, are finding it a bit harder. It's or remind them, it's okay to get help. We're trying to make a plan, and we're trying to reach out to resources. It's always, important just to avoid any type of shaming language. So, kids shouldn't hear, we can't afford that because we're poor, or that kid is poor, that type of language. I think it's just, we just have to resist trying to other people and put them in boxes, or use language that can be hurtful or labeling. It's okay for kids to understand, families have to budget money. There are finite resources. And again, food is very expensive. I think it's important to talk about community support at an early age. Let them know that there are lots of places of support and community, and that receiving help is a sign of community strength, not a failure. And for kids who, again, perhaps are not experiencing food insecurity, or maybe will never experience it, it's really important to help them to build empathy for the kids around them. There are going to be kids in their classroom, their sports teams, wherever they are in community interacting, that are experiencing this issue. So, you can say things like, there are kids at your school who, might not know where their next meal is coming from, or might not be able to bring a lunch to school. Like, we don't always know who is experiencing poverty or the impacts and consequences of poverty. So it's important to just be kind to everyone, and be generous and be empathetic with those that you're interacting with. And again, for those who maybe want to take action, or want to see what can they do to help, they can, you can get them involved in donating food, or helping to pack a food box, or even just talking about the issue in their communities. We have lots of kids that come to Feed Nova Scotia because they, maybe saved up their birthday money, and, went out and bought food, and then brought it to Feed Nova Scotia to give out into the community. Like, we have those types of
Wonderful.
things that are happening all the time, which it's always something that we always, all of the staff will pause at Feed Nova Scotia when a kid walks through the door and either, wants to learn about this crisis that we're in, or wants to find ways to help, or is doing a school project on food insecurity. So these are all just really, really important experiences for kids to have. And so we always welcome kids, if they want to come in and chat with a staff member, or learn more about the work that we're doing, see the warehouse, and, the millions of pounds of food that we're packing and distributing across the province. And, and again, learn more about the systemic issues that cause food insecurity. So just, yeah, gentle conversations, and just not sugarcoating it. Like I said, kids are smart, and they should know what's happening around them. And sadly, this is the this is the society that they're growing up in, and the more they know, the better.
Thank you for that good and thoughtful advice, and I agree. And I encourage parents to have conversations on this topic with their kids, no matter if you're experiencing food insecurity or if you're not. It's an important topic to have as a family. Please tell us of some of the events that are happening around this holiday season. Last year, I was out to see the Santa event in Dartmouth, and it was amazing. I remember stopping at one stop sign, and every direction I looked at, all I saw was Santas. But I know there's a lot of great events that you have. And how can people find out more about these events so they can come out and support?
Yeah, this is my favorite part because even though, this is really, like I've said over and over again, this is a crisis and this is really a difficult thing that Nova Scotians are dealing with. But at Feed Nova Scotia, we really get to see how folks who can help show up with generosity and heart, especially around this time of year. So we rely on this season to be able to sustain our operations all year long. So, like I said in the beginning, this is, around the holidays, folks really like to participate and to give back and to help others. And so we just have a lot of fun this season, with the different events and things that are happening. We have a really big event coming up called Giving Tuesday. It's a global day of generosity. So everybody, chooses their favorite charity and donates. And this often is something that is matched by other foundations and donors. So it's really an important fundraiser for us. We always have 50/50s happening. We have gift dropping stations at Micmac Mall, Halifax Shopping Center, so you can bring your gifts, and we have lovely volunteers and staff there wrapping everything up. There is the Evergreen Festival is back this year, so that is a beautiful waterfront holiday event, and so definitely something to take the kids to. It's called Make the Season Kind, so that's December 5th to 7th. Um, we have the Victorian Christmas is back again. This is at Citadel Hill. That's actually coming up the 22nd and 23rd. So it's just a gorgeous historic holiday experience. It's really cool. And if you have little ones, you could take them to Sunnyside Mall and get Grinch and Santa photos done. All of the proceeds from that support food insecurity, and it's just a pay what you can situation. Um, Plus, we are partnering again with Superstore and Sobeys and others for holiday giving campaigns at the checkout. So if you are going through the checkout at a grocery store and you see a bin, now is a great time of year to donate food to the bins, and we will get it out to the community in need. Something that really surprised me when I came to Feed Nova Scotia is that there are thousands of folks out there who hold their own events and donate the proceeds back to Feed Nova Scotia or collect food. So the Santa Claus is one example of that. So if you are having an event and you want to, you know, help out the community, you can either collect food or collect donations, and then, like I said, give those back to Feed Nova Scotia, and we will provide boxes and bins and whatever folks need to be able to run a successful event. So that's always something that we are always just really excited to see what people are doing there out in the community to celebrate the holidays, to encourage giving and generosity and compassion and support. So yeah, there's just a lot going on. So the best place to go is our website, feednovascotia.ca, or on our social media. Everything is listed there, and yeah, we're always sharing different events that are happening.
Excellent. Thank you. We have a wonderful and generous audience. So thank you for sharing all the ways that they can help. And we appreciate that. As we wrap up now, do you have anything further that you want to share?
I think, yeah, I would just reiterate the different ways that people can help, because it doesn't have to be donating or fundraising. We are always looking for volunteers, and we are always looking for folks who are interested in helping us to advocate for change. So, you know, certainly donate if you can. Money allows us to purchase fresh food, protein, dairy, produce, and get it to the communities where it's needed most. Giving food also very helpful. We are always accepting shelf stable items, especially now. As I said, volunteering. So, we need folks sorting food in the warehouse, helping us with events in the community. Lots going on throughout the year in terms of volunteer opportunities and advocating. So, talk to your MLA, your counselor, your neighbors. Talk about food as a human right, not something that should be responded to, or that should be a charitable response. It should be something that we are all guaranteed. And yeah, if you have any questions about how to do these things in community, how to advocate, we have all those resources and information for you. So always just willing to have those conversations. And I think like my last plug would be just check on your neighbors. We never know who's
Great advice.
struggling. Um, and in this society that we're in now, unfortunately, so many people are just busy, and they're on their devices, and we've just become a little bit more isolated from one another. And community care and support is just such a meaningful way to support each other and to help our communities thrive. So yeah, check on your neighbors, and bring a kind word, or a grocery box, or a cup of sugar, whatever it is. We definitely live in a province that is just so full of heart, and I see it time and time again. Just when we come together, really beautiful things happen. So
That
yeah, thank you.
that's amazing. Thank you, Ash, for taking the time to join us and share your insight. I can honestly say I learned a lot tonight, and I learned a lot about what's happening in our province. So I really thank you for taking the time, and thank you, audience, for joining us. As we have said, food insecurity is such an important topic. It's not a failure of an individual, it's a community failure. If you need help, please talk to someone. There was the 211, there was numerous resources that Ash has shared with us. And please get the help that you and your family needs, and have the conversations that are for you and your family as well. If you're able to help, please do so. Have a wonderful and safe holiday, and we will see you in the new year. As I always say, my hood is parenthood. Until next time.